Senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano. So Judge Boasberg is a thorn in the side, I would actually say nemesis of the Trump administration. And this was a pretty, I would say, damning decision by the appeals court against Judge Boasberg.
Good morning, guys. I have never seen anything like this before. The power of a trial court to hold lawyers in contempt who failed to follow the trial court's ruling is an essential tool of being a trial judge. This will be highly criticized in the entire legal community, not what Judge Boasberg did, but the appellate court, two appellate judges who were never trial judges and were never trial lawyers, taking away this essential tool. But here's what they ruled. When Albrego-Garcia, we're all the way back to him, was shipped to El Salvador, Judge Boasberg ordered the plane not to leave. By the time the order was signed, the plane was in the air, and DHS and DOJ said, we don't have jurisdiction over the plane. We can't get it to turn around. Judge Boasberg said, turn the plane around or I'll hold you in contempt. Now, that's the linchpin of all of this, because once he held them in contempt, they each pointed fingers at the other. DOJ said, well, they're in the courtroom, and DHS runs the plane, and DHS said, well, we can't stop a plane when it's mid-flight and in international airspace. So whose fault is it? So the judge conducted an investigation to find out who violated his order to turn the plane around. In the middle of that investigation, the DOJ files an appeal saying, this investigation is so intrusive, it violates the separation of powers between the judicial branch and the executive branch. You have a judge asking us about all of our thought processes, and we are not required to reveal them. And the appellate court, surprisingly, agreed with the DOJ. So the holding in contempt stands, but it doesn't point at any individual because the investigation is stopped.
Isn't it unusual for a judge to try to go find out who he should hold in contempt as opposed to just ruling?
Yes, it is. But when you have two federal agencies, Department of Homeland Security and Department of Justice, pointing fingers at each other, the last thing you want to do is hold the wrong person in contempt. So you conduct an investigation to find out what happened. They stopped the investigation, finding it was too intrusive.
So where does this go from here? What happens next?
I don't know where it goes from here. He can still hold somebody in contempt if he finds that they violated his court order, but I don't know how he's going to decide who it was because of this nonsense of each department pointing at the other.
All right, real quickly, want to pivot now to prosecutors. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, her office visited the Fed trying to basically find out what's going on there, and that didn't work out.
Guess who the trial judge is in this case?
Judge Boasberg?
Judge Boasberg.
Of course he is. Right.
Okay, so when Jeanine Pirro, and I know her dearly, and she's a longtime friend of mine, when her office served a subpoena on the Federal Reserve for its records concerning the remodeling of the building, the lawyers for the Federal Reserve moved to quash the subpoena. Judge Boasberg says to the DOJ, this is a criminal investigation, right? Yeah. Is there any evidence whatsoever that the Fed committed a crime? Lawyer for the DOJ, we don't have any. Okay, you don't have any evidence. There's no basis for the criminal investigation. I'm quashing the subpoena. Nevertheless, Jeanine Pirro sends two lawyers and an FBI agent knocking on the door of the Fed. The Fed says, where's your warrant? They say, we don't have one. Goodbye. That's what happened yesterday. This also is unheard of. But look at what happened to Pam Bondi. Jeanine Pirro does not want to suffer the same fate. She wants to do everything she can to effectuate the president's will of dominance over the Federal Reserve.